Today we're talking about our 2014 Guide to Pricing Your Managed Services. So you may have seen in your email in the past couple months that we released our 2014 Managed Services Pricing Guide. Today we wanted to just go through some of the topics in that guide and talk to you about building revenue from reactive and managed customers and go into detail on that. Presenting today is myself, Ali Mahmood, and joining me is Stephanie Hammond. Before we get into specifically numbers and talking about that, I just wanted to have a quick look at the managed services market as a whole. If we take a look at the various stages of management that IT service providers can be providing to small, medium businesses, Gartner broke it down into 5 phases. Really, we only see experience with the first 4 phases. And on the lower end, we tend to group those into reactive. On the higher end, we group them into managed. Basically, at the very, very low end, we have break-fix customers. These are the customers that really don't see the value in paying an outside company to do proactive work on their network. They see IT as a cost, and they're only willing to pay when something's broken and preventing them from doing their work. Moving up the chain, we have responsive customers. These are customers that are going to be engaging you for minimal commitments. So they might buy 10 hours of work at a time just so they can realize some savings. But really, they still have that mentality of, I only want you to use those hours if something's broken and just completely put me out of service. That's when you can step in and fix that computer or replace that hard drive, whatever the case may be. As soon as we start to get into proactive and managed customers, that's where you're starting to make a lot of recurring revenue and much higher margins. Because what you're doing now is you're doing proactive monitoring, proactive maintenance, and you can really productize the service that you deliver to those customers so it almost becomes cookie cutter. I can do patch, backup, AV for customer A. So the cost of doing it once is, the cost of me learning how to do those services, how to provide them, getting the tools to deliver it. As soon as I add a second customer, it really is just dragging and dropping and adding them. So there's not a lot of extra headache that I have from scaling this up to multiple customers. So that's where you're going to see a lot of revenue and very high margins. So what's the difference between a reactive service versus a managed service? We just take a look at a couple examples here. So one of the obvious ones is, a laptop breaks, it won't boot up, I have some issue with it. That's when they call you and just say, can you take a look at this and fix it? A managed service is something like you're proactively scanning the network and you're taking a look at, they have 2 servers today for their 20 desktops. They're going to need to buy a 3rd server soon. Or they're going to need to upgrade the RAM or the hard drive. It's a very proactive approach. We don't wait for problems to come up. We plan and we act before they come up. Another one would be antivirus. So in a reactive environment or a reactive IT mentality, people aren't reaching out to you, a managed service provider. They're just going online and they're downloading a free antivirus product, or maybe they're paying something like a Norton or an Avast. On the managed side, you're basically their security consultant. You're providing the managed service. You install the antivirus. You pick which antivirus is best for them, and you're making sure that their AV is up to date, that they're patching, and that all of their endpoints are protected. So it's a very, very different approach. And then we kind of go down the list, and we have other things like backup. We have compliance and auditing, and we have mobile device management. So all different aspects of the IT at a small, medium business. Obviously, what we want to discuss in today's webinar is how do we move people from being reactive to managed. What I want to say in this webinar is that with a lot of customers, you're not going to be able to convince them to go fully managed. But what you might be able to do is to pick one of these services like antivirus. They could be buying antivirus for $60 a year per computer today. What you want to do is flip them onto your antivirus for $4 a month or $5 a month. That's what we want to talk about today. When we look at the market, we see that a staggering amount of the market is actually this reactive mentality. There's so many small, medium businesses in North America alone. And a lot of them have that mentality where they don't want to pay you $20 a month per workstation or $200 a month per server. So what you can do is you can go in there and build trust with these people. And like I said, you can just pick something that they have today. They might have that antivirus. They might be using a commercial or a consumer backup software. What you want to do is replace what they're already doing with your managed service. We have a lot of feedback from our partners that they can do the managed version of the service, better, faster, cheaper than an SMB can do it in-house, and it completely eliminates the headache of that reactive customer having to manage their own equipment. On the managed side, something you'll hear a lot from me and lots of people at Enable is automation. We're huge fans of automation, and it's been a big focus in our remote monitoring platform that anything that can be automated should be automated. So today, if you're doing manual PC maintenance, manual server maintenance, if you're logging into an Exchange server and manually doing routine tasks, if you're logging in weekly to flush DNS or do some updates, that is something that can be automated. So what we want to do is just completely eliminate all that manual time you're spending and automate everything. The other thing that you can be doing with your managed customers is just making sure that they are using all of your managed services, not just remote monitoring. Are they backing up with you? Do they have antivirus from you? Are you patching their systems? We just want to make sure that we're getting as much value to that customer as possible and as much revenue to our business as possible. So basically what I think it boils down to is showing them a better way. So today they might be using Windows Update for patch, so that's really not a strategy at all. They're relying on their employees to accept those updates to restart their own machines. Really not a strong security policy. When it comes to consumer antivirus, like I said, they could be using a free product. They could be paying for a product. What I want to discuss probably later in the slides here is just the quality of consumer antivirus that's out there today. People think that if they go on a website and they buy a brand name product, that they're protected. One of the problems with Microsoft Security Essentials, just to give you an example, here's a free antivirus, so if someone goes online, they download Microsoft Security Essentials, think they're protected. In a lot of the independent tests that I've read, AV test, avcomparatives.org, any online test that you view like that, Microsoft ranges from 80 to 88% protection rates. That's almost 12 to 20% of malware that's getting through the door. And with things like CryptoLocker, ransomware, grayware, spyware, adware, there's probably 10 classes of malware that could be getting in the door. That's data that can be stolen, money that can be stolen, systems that can be taken offline. So the idea of letting 20% of malware in the door is just unacceptable. That's where you come in and you provide, an enterprise-grade security for essentially the same cost as what they're paying today for a consumer product. Same thing goes for backup. They could have an ad hoc backup strategy. Maybe they just picked their favorite server, their email server, their SQL server, and they've purchased an external hard drive, and they're using the one-touch backup that comes with a Western Digital hard drive. This is certainly not a backup strategy that's going to protect their data. If anything happens to that hard drive, they're toast. If the backup time, the restore time takes 4 hours to get them back up and running, that's 4 hours that they're out of business. And if you look at the stats, the average cost for an SMB to be offline for one day is over $12,000. So if I'm out of business for one day, it's $12,000. So the idea of just this ad hoc backup strategy isn't good enough. That's where you come in with a plan. And for the cost of basically a cell phone contract a month, you can protect their critical servers. So when it comes to building revenue through managed services, like I said, there's those two customer groups. There's the reactive customers and the managed customers. When it comes to a reactive customer, for this example, we're going to assume that they're not your customer today. You've walked in off the street and you want to pitch your services to them. There's two approaches you can take. You can show up with a pamphlet, you can hand them a flyer and say, here are all my services and all my prices. With a reactive customer, it's just not going to work. We've already established that they don't see the value in IT. They're going to wait until something breaks, and then they could just take it to Best Buy or whatever brand name repair shop that they know. What you want to be doing is showing them the value that you can provide and the value that any managed service business can provide. So here's kind of a 3-step strategy to get you in the door, to build trust, and then to start selling. So if we look at auditing, what I mean by auditing is with N-Central, which is our RMM platform, that's our remote monitoring and management platform, we have these free agents or free essential licenses that you can deploy on a customer network. So what you've done is you show up and now you're saying, hey, are you interested in a free network assessment, a free network audit? Who doesn't like a free audit? You're going to show up and you're going to say, I can tell you where, what data you need to be backing up, what your patch statuses are your servers even in warranty, things like that. So all of that data is going to report back up to N-Central. It's all going to be collected for you, and then we're going to spit that out as a report so that you can sit down and have a conversation with them. So all of that plays into building trust with them. So N-Central's gathered all this data for me. Now I've produced this network assessment report. Really wasn't a lot of effort on my part. Wasn't a lot of effort on the customer's part. They didn't have to let me in the door. I didn't have to go tinker with any of their servers. N-Central just pushed out all those agents automatically. Fairly painless for everybody at this point. But now this is where you're going to have a report in front of you, and you're going to start to get a lot of insights about their business. So if you sat down with any customer, if you just walked in off the street and asked them, what's your warranty status, what antivirus are you using, ask them those kinds of questions, the fact is that they probably wouldn't be aware of anything that they're using. So with this network assessment report, when you start seeing any trends, when you start to see that 5 out of their 10 workstations don't have any antivirus installed on them, that's a point that you can sit down and have a conversation with them. You can say, look, I'm not coming in, I'm not trying to sell you 100 different things. I just noticed that, half of your workstations are unprotected, and we've seen some pretty bad malware out there. Look at Target. Target got hacked for 70 million customer records. All these big events that have been happening, and people are aware of them. Antivirus, I would say, of all the things we run into on a day-to-day in our customers' locations, antivirus is the most prevalent software. So most people know the value of it. So you can already talk to them, assuming they know the value of antivirus software, but you can tell them, why their current solution isn't good enough. So this is kind of the free advice that you're going to give the customer. This network assessment report's done all the work for you. It's figured out everything, and now you're just going to give them some free advice. This is your precursor to selling them. So we talk about warranty. So we just go in, we do a quick assessment, and we find out that nothing's in warranty. Not that we're going to tell them or advise them that they have to go out and purchase a Dell 3-year warranty on every single workstation they have, but maybe they have a couple servers, and those servers are critical to the business. If they were to be offline for a couple days or a week, that's unacceptable for them. So then we advise them, maybe just go out and purchase a 1-year warranty on your servers, so you're covered if anything happens. Maybe you do want some on-site support from a professional. We could be that professional. Or you just want a quick turnaround time if anything fails and you need to get a replacement hard drive. You can do an installed software report assessment. So we just want to make sure that all of the right equipment is installed. So the example I like to use is, we have 20 workstations, we have a bunch of software developers, a couple marketing people. We only have one project manager, but whoever went around and installed Microsoft Office, paid for the full-blown suite and put Visio Project and all the software on every workstation. So really they're overpaying on 19 of their workstations. So again, this is just free advice that you can give to them to turn down those licenses and save a little bit of money. You can do a quick network security audit, so you can take a look at what the open ports are, make sure they're not vulnerable to VNC or remote control. hack attempts. You can take a look at the network shares. So why is it that Johnny has access to all of the financial data on the network? You might find out that 2 years ago, we gave him access because he needed to download one spreadsheet and nobody ever turned it off. So it's those kinds of things that, you really sound like the professional at this point, and they're just kind of wowed at how much information you're giving them for free, right? Really, it didn't cost you anything. It wasn't a lot of effort on your side. You just, installed a couple probes and ran a quick report. But from their perspective, you've gone to all of this trouble to look at their network. You're starting to build trust at this point. Now, that's the point where we want to start looking for revenue opportunities. So when we look at their antivirus install base, day one, we might not be able to walk in and say, you guys should be buying antivirus from us. It's going to be this many dollars for each of your workstations per month. You might just identify that a few of the nodes are unprotected. So you can say, hey, I just noticed that you're vulnerable in this area. You really want to put some antivirus on those. At the same time, you always want to be talking up the difference between a consumer antivirus and a managed antivirus. I'm doing a security pricing guide right now specific to managed security. And I've actually done the math, and it's roughly the same cost that an SMB would pay for managed security compared to what they're paying for consumer antivirus. I mean, when you look at Norton or Avast or AVG or any of the big names, their annual subscription on a full internet security suite is quite expensive. We're talking $60 a year per workstation, so that's $6 a month almost per workstation. So that's when you want to turn around and you want to say, I can do the same thing and charge you monthly, but you know me. You're sitting down with the customer right there. They know your face. You're not, a faceless software company that they went online to find. So it really is a good story that you can give them on managed security. When it comes to patching really is just a subset of the security strategy. So you want to bake that in and say, hey, we're also going to patch you, just for a couple extra dollars a month. Make sure that you're covered from a patch point of view. Adobe alone in the last 2 years has released 400 patches to address vulnerabilities in their software. So that's a lot of patches per month. We want to make sure that we're protecting customers in a timely manner. And these are stats that you can pass on to the small medium business. Really it's not their forte. They don't go to bed at night worrying about IT. They go to bed at night worrying about their core business. So you can just come along and tell them, I'm going to be worrying about your IT. I'm the guy that reads all the latest industry news. I'm going to make sure that you're fully protected. When it comes to capacity planning, maybe, as I mentioned earlier, they have one server today and they're going to need another one soon. Well, rather than wait for that one server to become completely bottlenecked and slow down, everyone else's workstation, let's go ahead and plan to purchase one in advance. Same thing goes for backup. Same thing goes for replacing their workstations. There's a lot of opportunity in there that you can be looking for to upsell them for revenue. So the core three services that most of our partners are going to market with are, of course, the remote monitoring. So that everything kind of starts with that remote monitoring agent. Then what you want to be adding on top of that is what I just talked about, the managed security, managed backup, managed patch. And then a lot of customers could benefit from that managed auditing and compliance. So just really quick, I want to go through how do you position your service against their current product? What does the competitive landscape look for you when you're walking into that customer's install base? When it comes to consumer antivirus, I really think that the protection rates that they're getting are just not good enough. When you look at those independent tests, what I'm seeing from a lot of the consumer products is they're anywhere from, like I said, 80% with Microsoft to the low 90s with some of the bigger names like Norton and Avast. When you come in with a managed enterprise level security solution, ours is based on Bitdefender. And if you look at Bitdefender's track record, they're in the 99% plus and often 100% protection. And the thing I like about these third-party antivirus testing sites is they do real-world tests. So it's not just in a lab. They put workstations out on the web, on the network. They test it with all of the latest threats. And then you have something like Bitdefender, which catches 99% to 100% of those. So that's just a talking point for you to bring to the customer, saying, your current solution is not good enough. You're not protected enough against some of these, terrible malware programs that are out there. The great thing about managed security is if they hire a new employee tomorrow, it will automatically deploy the security solution on that new endpoint as soon as it's detected. Same thing goes if you have someone bringing in their home laptop for whatever reason, or maybe someone's visiting and they join the network and they have malware on their workstation. We can automatically discover that node and automatically push it if we want to. When it comes to backup, my experience talking to a lot of small medium businesses is, they have no backup and they just don't see the value, or they're too busy to get around to setting something up, or they have very, very basic backup. Like I said, they might have bought an external hard drive. They might manually do the backup themselves, once a week, once a month, or they might have, a consumer software that's going to do it automatically for them. The big problem with anything consumer is, in my experience, versus managed, is that it's siloed. So it's just a siloed backup. It only protects that one server, and there's really no plan to go from, we've had a disaster, a hard drive has crashed in our main server. How do I recover? Do I have to reinstall Windows? Do I have to wait to reconfigure every single setting? Then do I copy the data back over? I would say most SMBs just don't have a plan to recover, and they don't even know how to go from a failed server to back up to fully operational. So again, when we tell them stats like the average cost of downtime per day is $12,000, they can do the math for their own business to figure out what it would mean to them if they were offline for a day or 2 days or a week. And then we can talk to them about managed backup. So really for the cost of a cell phone contract or less than one cell phone contract a month, we could be providing managed backup, to cover them for all of those circumstances. And if an issue happens, we're going to be there, the MSP. We will be there to completely get you back up and operational as fast as possible. Patching, I mentioned already. Most people just rely on Windows Update. They rely on Adobe to update itself. The issue with that, like I said, is that there are so many security bulletins that come out, so many vulnerabilities are addressed. We think of things like Heartbleed and other issues that have happened in the past year. You want to be patched as soon as possible so that you're not leaking data and you're not exposing yourself to any of those threats. So patching should definitely be part of your security strategy that you're pitching to your customer. And then of course, there's always all the other revenue opportunities that you have. So if we think about things like, selling them additional hardware, upgrading their servers, purchasing warranties, new licenses for software, our experience is that if you can get in the door, if you can be a friend to them and show them, where they're vulnerable, where the problems are, and really not be a pushy salesperson at that point, you're just helping them to see what the problems are. Then when they start to react back and they say, you know what, I don't like the idea of not having antivirus on all of my systems, that's your point. That's your jump off point to talk to them about, managed antivirus is basically the same price as what you're paying for your consumer products, but the protection is 10 times better. So just always be looking for those opportunities. So when we talk about revenue, when we talk about a reactive customer, so again, a reactive customer is someone who does not see the value of IT. We have to educate them. We have to convince them on what the value is. We're not going to be able to walk in and say, here's 5 services that I can offer you. I'm going to bundle them all together so you can save 40%. They're not even interested in hearing that. What you can walk in the door and say is, today you have 10 workstations, you're missing antivirus on 3 of them. I could sell you my managed antivirus for the same price that you're paying the other guys. I could sell you backup for one of your servers and find out where their tolerance level is and just sell them on those points. You've got in the door, you did the free network assessment, you're starting to build trust. we want to start softly when we start selling them products. So if you can get your foot in the door with a little bit of security, a little bit of backup, that relationship can grow over time as you deliver on your promises. So really, that's a strategy to get in the door with reactive customers and to build revenue from them. When it comes to managed customers, that's where you want to start thinking about coming up with, a productized offering. So think of a managed server or a managed workstation. You'd probably take some of the services below, like AV, patch, backup, and bundle them together so that you could say, I can do all of these things to protect your server, and then maybe a subset of those things to protect your workstations. And because this customer actually appreciates the value of IT and understands the importance of proactive maintenance, that it's actually going to save them money over time, they are willing to invest that $20 to $60 a month for a workstation, or more for a server. Servers are much more critical, so I'm willing to pay $100 to $250. So that's what you want to be thinking about. You might even have a combination. You might have a customer who, their threshold is that, I'm okay with you guys managing my database server, I'm okay with you managing my Exchange server, but I don't feel comfortable paying somebody $20 a month for every workstation. What you could do then is you always have that option to go in with just one or two of the services, like just antivirus for your workstations at a very low rate. Enable's worked with over 3,000 MSPs to date, and what we do is, I would say we're a little bit different. Our interest is helping you to build that kind of an offering. We want to make sure that you're able to walk in the door and communicate the value of everything I've talked about today and more, and really that at the end of the day you have a productized offering, so you're not worrying about building your own marketing materials, building your own product offering, deciding what services go where. We want to help you through all that process. And Central, which I talked about, is just one of a family of tools that can make your life better. So, of course, today was about building recurring revenue, but something else that we like to talk about, of course, is automation and some of the other tools that we have, like reporting, that network assessment report, just to help you provide great service to your customers. So, Stephanie, we do have a couple questions. Okay, so we have someone asking, what. On the pricing slide that I just had up, what's the difference between the $20 for a workstation versus $60 for a workstation? Obviously, I'm guessing we want the higher end of the spectrum, but what different offerings would I provide?
But when you look at the higher end of each of the server, the network, the desktop workstation part, that's for the average price we're seeing for fixed fee, flat rate, all inclusive, whatever you want to call it. So basically what that involves is, for example, $250 a month for the server. That means we got the professional monitoring node on there. We're doing our checklisted maintenance items on the server every day, week, month. We're doing backup. We're building in AV, patch. We're doing a managed audit, meaning a vulnerability scan each month. And also it means that any unexpected downtime, any remote support, any on-site support that we need to provide, that's all bundled into that $250 price. Same thing with the $65 for the network, $60 for the workstation. We are taking into account unlimited on-site help desk, remote support. If your customer doesn't need that or would prefer to do maybe a maintenance-only type of arrangement with you and pay-as-you-go for the help desk, pay-as-you-go for the unexpected downtime, pay-as-you-go for the remote support session, then you can charge near the lower end, like the $100 for the server, $25 for the workstation, or $20 for the workstation, $25 for the network. And those are where you're committing to monitoring and doing a checklisted list of maintenance items. So that's really where the differences lie. The high end, we're taking into account the network and the people and the emergency downtime. The lower end, we're just focused on maintaining the network and monitoring it. The people and unexpected downtime are all pay-as-you-go.
Excellent. So Stephanie, someone's asking, because we gave the example of the average cost of downtime being $12,000 a day for the average SMB. They're asking, what does an average SMB look like? How many devices do they have? How many employees? What's your experience?
Okay. Mostly our partner base seems to have around 100 to 200 active customers in their base. Now, part of my territory is I work with a lot of copier dealerships. So they kind of skew the results because when you look at their entire copier install base, we're talking, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people. But for our average partner size that's just focused on IT services, they have around 100 to 200 active customers. And then when you look at the size of those clients, typically around 15 to 20 users, a couple of servers, a couple of pieces of network gear, and 20 workstations.
Yeah, I think that's my experience too. Is it's hard to average these things, but we say 15 to 20 desktops and a couple servers. So you multiply that by about 5 customers, and you're getting into the 100 devices range. Okay, someone's asking, how do we go about deploying essential nodes? Is that something where I need to be physically on site? What does that look like?
No, it can all be done remotely. Just having, obviously, if it's a prospect, you want to have their permission to go and load software onto their system for a period of time. But deploying the agents, deploying AV, deploying the essential nodes, whatever, that can all be done remotely. You don't necessarily have to go on site. So again, I'm not a technical resource, so if it's a prospect that's looking for a more detailed approach of how N-Central works, then we have our daily demos with our solutions architects, and then we also have a demo on the enable.com site as well.
Perfect. Someone's asking about reporting. I can probably take this one. So the question is, that network assessment report, is it a template that's available out of box, or is it something you have to build? So the answer is it's definitely available out of box. We have about 40 different report templates. The network assessment report's probably the best for prospects, which is what I was talking about today. If someone's a current customer, we tend to shift to what we call our executive summary report. So the network assessment helps you learn about their network, so you can find areas to sell to them. The executive summary report is more, this is what I'm doing for you, this is what you're paying me for, this is how covered you are, type of stuff.
Yeah, really the network assessment report is what you would use in any pre-sales, whether it is a prospect that you've never done business with, or maybe it's an existing time material break fix, or maybe even a block hour contract that you're looking to convert into something of a recurring revenue type of model. The idea is you need to have data about their network so that you have something that you can present back to them. I joke that you need the ammunition, and that's really what the network assessment report provides you. It gives you the issues, it gives you the ammunition that you can use against your prospect or customer to really demonstrate why the status quo isn't working well for them and why they should consider something like one of your monthly maintenance contracts.
Great. Stephanie, I didn't go into heavy detail about auditing, but we have a couple questions about it. So the first one being, how should I go about approaching auditing a customer? What does that look like from the product, and what's kind of the business offering there?
Okay, so one of two ways you can kind of fulfill that auditing. If it's an existing client, you already have a relationship with them, then definitely leverage the essential nodes, put them out there, let them soak for a week or so you can get some good monitoring data coming in, and then as we just talked about, pull that network assessment report so that you can identify hardware, software, warranty information, license, patch, AV, capacity, utilization, and then use that to help identify and position your contract. If it's a prospect and maybe they're already with or under contract with somebody else, then you may not be in the position to actually deploy N-Central and deploy software onto that network. So the other solution that we have is a tool called Audit Manager. And this is an assessment license that does a baseline vulnerability scan. You can also do configuration management and compliance data reporting out of it. But it's a great tool to use because you don't need to actually install it on the network. But you can still get some really good security information. Again, all about getting data on that network that you can use against them, especially if you're trying to displace a competitor. If they're working with someone, that's great. The Audit Manager scan will either say, yes, your existing service provider is doing a fantastic job, we didn't find any issues, or hopefully, which may be the case, your service provider is missing some things. And this is what we actually do for our customers and how we protect our customers. And you can kind of show them the holes that may exist on their network because their existing service providers not doing that, missing it, or say they're doing it and they're really not. Worst case scenario there.
So, Stephanie, maybe just a couple more questions before we wrap up. Someone's asking, how does the business coaching work with Enable?
Okay. Well, that's my whole role. When Enable first started this back in 2004, I was the original business coach that they hired on. So I've been doing this job for almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years in a couple of weeks. And basically the idea is that technology alone, as great as N-Central is, we found that our partners needed some help from, how do I wrap everything up? How do I put together my product offerings, my packages to sell out? How do I decide what packages to sell? What features do I include in? How do I price that out? Those are all questions that early on our early on partners had a difficult time grasping how to do it on themselves. So we now have the business coaching. We've had it for 10 years. But the idea is that you would work hand in hand with someone like myself, and my title is Channel Sales Specialist, and you also have a dedicated sales engineer on the technology side, because both technology and the business support go hand in hand. So basically, any new partner that signs on, you get a designated, dedicated business coach as well as a technical coach.
And Stephanie, maybe just to elaborate on that, what does the first week or the first 30 days look like, for someone who's brand new to Enable and they haven't provided managed services before, they haven't come up with a packaged offering, and we're going to help them do that. Can you just walk us through kind of the first days of?
Yeah, no problem. So typically, once a new partner gets signed on, say into my territory, usually we spend the first month doing a weekly phone call. So the first phone call is really kind of an information gathering stage for me, because I need to find out about your business, what works for you, what ticks, what makes you decide now to get into managed services. I take my partner through a business onboarding, show them the Enable Resource Center, all of the tools and the resources that we have available for them. But then we go and set up our next meeting right away so that we can get into the programs and the pricing. And we have a full presentation of ready to go to market programs, all mapped out. So I kind of go over the different programs with my partners, the philosophy behind each of the programs, the pricing behind each of them. And then we schedule a follow-up call after that. And then we really, have a good conversation around, okay, so what are you going to go to market with? What features are you going to include in your program? How are you going to price it? And we have some cost calculators to help on the pricing end of things, because all markets are different, all tools are different. You may have something that you want to include in your program, so we need to factor that into the overall cost and price. And then we have a subsequent meeting where we really talk about sales strategies. So I want to find out what's your sales approach, who's doing the sales, who's accountable for that, what targets are you putting in place for them, where are your opportunities, what leads are you guys working towards. And then we kind of put a plan together. And then after that, it's regular ongoing meetings. Typically, I like to meet with my partners at least once a month, once every 6 weeks, once a quarter, depending on how often they want to talk to me, because I want to celebrate successes, and I also want to find out, if things aren't working well, if we're not tracking according to the plan we initially put in place, what's the problem, what's the issue, and try and tell people to that, and maybe we need to change it up. So once we get through, I would say probably the first month, maybe 5 weeks, depending on the ramp up, then it's regular ongoing meetings after that, supporting my partners on anything from a business-related perspective that they may need help on.
Yeah, and I think we're done for questions, but I just wanted to add to that, Stephanie, that I've been at Enable for a little while now, and that's for me is the primary difference that I've seen here with our sales support team versus other companies I've worked for is just the commitment to helping our MSPs build their business, and the tools that we provide. Like we provide the digital binder, which gives them all their marketing assets that they'd need, all of that coaching to build and productize their service. It really helps them be very successful, rather than just kind of saying, here's a technical product, you go ahead, figure out how to use it and how to sell it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's why we implemented the business coaching 10 years ago, because we saw that need, and it really, as you said, it's been our key differentiator. Like I've worked with, I don't know if I would say thousands, but maybe, at least hundreds of partners over the last 10 years, and, pretty much, for my entire team, whatever business, sales, marketing programs, pricing support a partner needs, we're prepared to help you with it, because at the end of the day, if you're successful, we're successful.
Great. So everyone, thank you very much for joining us today. I hope that information was informative for you. We enjoy talking about building the business side. We also have our technical webinars. We do technical deep dives, very, very often, so you can sign up for those demos. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to sales@n-able.com. Stephanie, thanks very much for your time today.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
And everyone, have a great day. Thank you.